everyone, and welcome to our event today, Going Global, Why Bother? Our event with the Going Global 2015 facilitation team. So, a warm welcome to the whole team. We've got Carol Walter Gustafsson with us. Hi, Carol.
Hi, John.
Lovely to have you here.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and Kimar. Hi.
Hi, John. Hi.
Colin, I can see you too. Colin Lego. Hello, Colin.
Hi, John. Good evening, everybody.
And a warm welcome to Peggy Nattiello too. Great to see you, Peggy.
Great to see all of you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. And a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us live on the website. It's really lovely to have your presence here with us to join in the discussion. And of course, I want to say thank you to Saz for taking such good care of us too. So a shout out for Saz as well. If you're here to just enjoy the conversation, perhaps you've got a cuppa with your computer or your iPad, whatever you're watching us on, that's great. Kimar's got his cuppa too. Fantastic. But if you do want to get in the chat room, well, that would be lovely too. I can see there's already a bunch of people in there, so fantastic. If you're struggling to get into the chat room, Saz will pop in her email address, or you can just reply to the notification email that you got for this event. That will get you through to Saz, and she can help you get in the chat room. I know as a team we're really looking forward to questions and comments and dialogue, really. It's not for us as a team to tell everybody else what we think, but we're really hoping for some good discussion, really, today. Yeah. To get us going, though, we often start, because we're all in a virtual space, by just placing ourselves in some kind of context of geography. And would it be okay to ask each of you where you're located, please? Peggy, would you like to start? Oh, I'm just going to pick on you first, Peggy.
It's okay to ask, but I think you're going to have to call on us.
Okay.
I'm in beautiful Sedona, and it's quite a beautiful, dramatic day. We don't usually have clouds, but there are huge black clouds. There's wind blowing. There's sunshine. We have it all today, and I'm in my office.
That sounds amazing, Peggy, and it's lovely to get some time with you in your office there in Sedona, where you see clients, I guess. This is...
Yes. Do you see the orchid behind me?
I can.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gave it to me. I'm praying it won't die under my tutelage.
It's gorgeous.
That's what we do. So.
Thank
Beautiful
you, Peggy.
colour.
Yeah, it is, isn't it, Kimar? Yeah. Kimar, whereabouts are you?
I am in the kitchen at Temenos in Sheffield, in South Yorkshire, in the UK.
Kind of rainy South Yorkshire.
In the rain.
In the rain, yes. And you've been
rain.
with our foundation group all weekend, haven't you? I guess in
That's
Temenos.
Right, yeah. Yes, we finished at 5:30.
Yeah. So the groups all went home, but we're keeping you here so that we can have you for an hour for the event.
Yeah. It's good to be here. Yeah.
Thank you, Kimar. And Carol, how about you? Whereabouts are you?
Well, I'm about half a country away from Peggy, and we're both in the States, but I'm on the East Coast in Boston, and 4 hours north of New York, and very happy to be here. I'm in the office where writing struggles to happen, but sometimes happens, occasionally happens. Happy to be with everybody.
Oh, lovely. Well, it's, great to be in the hub of where that creative expression happens, Carol. Fantastic.
I call it a little satellite rather than a hub.
Thank you, Carol. And Colin, how about you? Whereabouts are you?
Well, I'm in Sheffield like Kimar, and I'm sitting in our converted garage.
So there's no car around behind you or close?
No. I put it out for the evening, but I'll bring it back in later. We converted it into an interviewing room sort of office quite a few years ago. So this is where I see people and tend to try to work as well. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's lovely to have you with us, Colin, and to be in your practice space, and I guess where you write as well, and where it all happens for you as a practitioner.
Sort of.
Sort of, yes. Fantastic.
Where the creative juices are flowing.
Oh, fantastic, yes. Great.
Do you dance there, Colin? Do you dance in that room?
Not often, no, Peggy. No. I go out to do the dancing.
Okay, and John, you're hosting the event, but you're also part of our team. So where are you?
Thank you, Kumar. Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm up in West Lothian, and it's kind of dark and damp up here, close by South, I guess. So much more north than Sheffield, but yeah, I'm great to be, excited to be part of the facilitation team in this discussion. So yeah, thank you, Kumar. Thank you. And also wanting to catch, I wonder where everybody else in the group is. I see we've got about 70 people with us. So if anyone wants to pop in the chat room where you are and give us a sense of your location, that would be lovely.
It'll be really nice to hear where people are located. Yeah.
And we've had a little bit of techie issues, haven't we, with the sound? And so I think I might be the only one in our Skype group who can see the chat room. That's a little bit unfortunate, but I will be passing the comments and questions. And
So now you just have 3 jobs.
only 3 jobs. That's it. Oh, we're getting locations. A couple of people in Edinburgh, Norwich, Burton upon Trent, Suffolk, Sheffield. Oh, this is great. Milton Keynes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. East London. Lesmahago. Yes, which is South Lanarkshire, kind of a little bit south of us in West Lothian. Chesterfield. Very British talking about the weather. Yes, I think that comment is right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Southwest London, fab. So as you guys are putting in your locations, maybe giving us a weather check if you want to. That would be lovely. I mean,
can they give us a traffic check as well? What the roads are like?
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, the 5 of us have come together because we're convening another Going Global group, aren't we? In Sedona, nearby you, Peggy. And, we wanted to draw attention to the group. We don't want to be bashful about that. We want to kind of let people know what we're up to. But we also wanted to spend some time tonight as a bigger group, with everybody that's joining us online, thinking about why bother? The world's in a very strange place. Quite a unique place. So why would we come together from various contexts? Why would we still look to sit in a room together in the way that we do, and in the way that we as a group are passionate about facilitating? So that's the question that we kind of want to get into today. But maybe before we do that, is it worth maybe just saying a couple of things about our journey up to this point? Would that be okay? I guess we kind of thought we might do that just to place us in a bit of a practitioner context, perhaps. Carol, I can see you nodding. Is there a couple of things you could say for us, just about why you're here, I guess, and the things that have happened to get you here?
Yeah, well, you can certainly ask, and the answer is different on pretty much every other day, I think. There's some things that are always true. Like, I think, like most very young children, I kept seeing things in the world and hearing things, and as I grew up, I would say, this isn't fair. I mean, with kids, you get 2 M&Ms and I get 5 M&Ms, and that's not fair, and it goes on. And I think most kids are sensitive to being fair, and the world isn't fair at all right now and ever has been. But there are things that humans do to make it less fair, and that, I guess that is a pretty underlying motivation to see if we can do something that's more fair, not more charity or not more sappy kind of sentimentalism, but something that really makes a more just world for people. There's enough sort of necessary suffering. I don't think I want to see more unnecessary suffering. So that's one answer.
Thank you, Carol. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. And Kimar, did you have some thoughts about that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, the why bother is it for me. It's I feel that what I want to contribute is a place where people can contemplate that question in relation to themselves in the world. So the title of tonight kind of captures it for me, and it feels like an extension from individual psychotherapy to small group training, to go to the large group experience to contemplate global issues. I suppose I'm interested in people thinking, whatever that leads to, for them, about how they can place themselves in the world, what lights their fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Kimar. And I guess as we work together at Temenos, that's a lot of what we're doing in the training groups, I guess. And it sounds like that, like it's another place to do that thing that you're passionate about. And
It is, and I mean, there's a big difference for me, because the what we're doing at Temenos, there's a task as well involved in that. People are training to become psychotherapists, whereas the going global, it's like the task is to be in the group. From my perspective, it's not always easy to be in a big group experience, but it comes without an agenda. We're not trying to teach people, train people to do something, just to think and be and relate.
yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that, Kimar. Thanks for that. And I just noticed that there's some comments already coming in from the group about why they might bother, and we're really keen for that. So as we're kind of chatting, we're not looking for silence from the rest of the group. It's like, and when we get through saying some things, I will really pull those comments from the chat room as well, so that they can be heard by everyone. So thank you for that, and please keep typing. Yeah. Peggy, did you have some thoughts about kind of your journey to here?
I'm like Carol, I have millions of thoughts, but I've always been in love with the person-centered large groups. I feel like they contain the seeds for social change. And I always kind of welcome chaos. I think chaos is if you think in terms of systems theory, chaos is what gets the vibratory level up. And we are in a lot of chaos in this world. And that's the moment when a living system, which could be going global or each of us or the whole thing, at that moment when the vibrations are really perturbating, that's the moment when there can be a transformation or transcendence. And my thing about the large groups is I think we work at the level of consciousness. And I feel as though, I think Eckhart Tolle said something like, wisdom is not something like this. Wisdom is not a product of thought. Deep knowing, which is wisdom, comes out of paying attention to something or someone. Attention is primordial intelligence, consciousness itself. And I feel like I've had that experience in the person-centered large groups of dwelling with other people around some focus and having creative kinds of thinking emerge. So I think for me, it's a perfect way to dwell together around the issues of this globe. And I don't know what will happen, but that's part of the excitement for me. But I think something will happen for everybody, and it won't be the same for all of us. But I believe there could be a shift in the consciousness around the global issues. So that's where I am.
Thank you, Carol. Peggy. Thank you, Peggy, for that. Really appreciate that. Like, there's something about not just depending on our cognitions, our thinking, but that paying attention. It's a real opportunity in that. Yeah. Thank you. And Colin, how about you? I wonder what kind of thoughts you have at the beginning of our discussion about what has brought you here.
I was just thinking after Peggy's beautiful quote, oh, well, follow that. I was thinking, and I don't know what to say.
You've been up-quoted, Colin.
I mean, I suppose like Peggy, I share a great passion for the large group experience in terms of its potential. And that's from the early 80s and going to my first large groups then in Hungary, and being absolutely bowled over by the experience, but not understanding the experience. You know, there were 7 days, 200 participants, 20 languages, etc., etc., and so many powerful things happened. And I remember at the end thinking, I'd like to try to understand this theoretically, to have almost a simplified idea of what is it that's gone on, because experientially it was absolutely so full and so moving in many ways, despite all sorts of complex contradictions and international tensions and so on. I came back and found a book called The Large Group, which was a psychoanalytic book. And one of the things that fascinated me in one of the chapters, really quite a simple idea, but for me it was like an aha moment. The idea being that, of course, in individual therapy, we hopefully there's some form of gratification, some form of personal movement out of distress into something somewhat better in life. That small group work from an analytic perspective could be considered as perhaps similar to working with family, you know, in terms of small set of relations. But to work in a large group has a resonance of being in society. And I think if I reflect back on my various experiences in large groups, for me what has been so powerful is that they have been almost learning laboratories in which I have learnt, I think, to dare to be more me, and more open politically, probably less diplomatic, and more able to try to kind of comprehend the complexities of how society functions, but to feel more confident in my position in resonating with these enormous complexities, and it's I suppose it's, so therefore this is a very personal story in terms of, therefore I found me in that process in a way that I feel more able, more confident to engage with issues that light my fire, as it were. So historically I think that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, just that, like, you've really experienced that personal transformation and the experience with it that feels like being in society, I guess. Yeah, it sounds really powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you,
yeah.
Colin.
And such a simple idea, but so elegant, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see
What about you, John?
What about, oh yes.
And
What about me?
Hey,
I've been straight into facilitation.
You are.
Thank you, Kimar, for holding that. I'm so
Keep
used
you
to
in the team.
Yeah, I'm part of the team
Yeah.
too. So I'm noticing there's loads going on in the chat room already, which is great. Thank you, everyone. So I think I'm have a much shorter experience around groups, of course. And I think after my training as a counsellor, it was groups that really helped me ground myself and really develop as a practitioner. I don't think that process would have happened without being in groups. And I think there's something for me about, like, all the old solutions socially and politically are not going to do it for us now. And being in these kind of groups are one of the few experiences for me where we can emerge something really unique and brand new, because we can sit with that uncertainty. And I think there's something for me about sustaining that experience. It doesn't have to be the next group needs to emerge the panacea for everything, but almost like sustaining that expertise, if it isn't it, or that capacity to sit with not knowing, just feels so important. And other cultures have other ways of doing it, and it feels like this is part of a contribution I can make to, like, our Western culture of how we can come together and perhaps emerge things that can be helpful. Yeah. It feels important for me personally and as a contribution to society, even if it is at that smallest level. But so it's just lovely to be in this as a five together and say, scratch the surface of our passion for doing this, because we've already put in a huge amount of thinking and time together on Skype and planning, and so to share that, yeah. And I'm also noticing some of the things that are going on in the chat room. And to bring that into our fuller discussion, is that all right with everyone to do that too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It'll be lovely to hear from who's watching. Yeah,
great. So really appreciating the comments, and one of the comments that I think really catches a dilemma around groups is that experience. Maybe we come together in the group once a year, perhaps that's our experience, and everyone else in the group are all person-centered enthusiasts. And how do we kind of nudge that experience, if you like, or maybe nudge isn't the right word, into something that is more about society, more about culture? It's not just about being with the converted, almost. I hope that catches that comment or that question, so please feel free to clarify that. And Peggy, I know you often talk about really loving groups that are not just full of counsellors and psychotherapists, and that's been a real passion for you, and a challenge really to reach out to other people and in communities to bring them into groups. And Carol, I can see you nodding your head too. Do you have some thoughts about that, Peggy? Or?
I really, although I certainly do have my private practice, I am more interested in the heterogeneous groups that represent the world. And I love the diversity. And of course, for going global, I hope we do manage to bring more people together who maybe aren't committed to the person-centered approach or don't know it, but are really concerned with trying to at least gather some creativity. I don't think anybody in the world can solve what we're facing, but I think Carl used to say to me, you're living in the age of the transformation of consciousness. And that's where my hope lies, is that there's something, and we see it every day. We see it in things like the harmonic convergence, is that what it was called, all over the world, where people got together at a certain time and prayed for peace or thought about peace. I do believe that it has, being together with an intention has huge income. And no, I don't think it has to be all person-centered practitioners.
Thank you.
I
For,
agree.
what are you thinking, Kimar? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I agree with that, and it is sometimes hard to attract other people into the large group experience. But the other bit of the group experience that I want to hold is that even if we had a room full of counsellors, it's like counsellors are people too. And it's like to hold the person of the counsellor, I think, is also really important. That even if we all come together, we are all different. And we all have a different way of being person-centered that's unique to each one of us. It's not a thing. So yeah, so I like the mixed groups, but it's like I also want a group. Even if everybody's a counsellor, they can get to be a person too.
I think it's a unique the group. This large group is such a special thing, and it gets less special. It gets a little thwarted. I would say, if it becomes a person-centered I believe group. I mean, it might as well believe in anything. Believe in whatever, put whatever God, goddess, or ideology there, and say, this is what I believe in. Now you should believe that too. And if the group is that, I'm not interested in that. That's not what I'm interested in, because as Carl said, some of the most core values, or the core beliefs, whatever they are, whatever the attitudes, the way that we are, when something positive and loving and just and effective is happening, there's some principles at work, and those principles are knowable, and we have a snapshot of that. We have a living experience, if we're lucky, of that in our homes, wherever we are. That is that kind of quality of relationship, and quality of inclusiveness, and quality of non-judgmental clarity that is available not that many places to me. I have been in political groups where they want you to be what they are, and I've been to spiritual groups where they want you to be where you are, and psychological groups, and I just want to be someplace whole, and I've never been in a more whole, non-judgmental, fascinating laboratory for learning about everything in the universe than a large person-centered group. And the more diverse that is, and the more every voice gets to speak, I think that's critical. The thing that really stands out in my mind is the first, I guess, very large experience I did with Peggy and Carl Rogers and other people. Everybody was on that sort of high, like, oh, don't we all love each other? This is the best group I've ever been in. And it was really bubbling up, and it was infectious. And at a certain point, Carl said, well, hold on here. I'm wondering. I hear so many people. This is very moving. It's been the most intense, expansive, place you've ever been. But I bet you there are people in here who are pretty angry and who are not feeling very like this is a wonderful group. Like, it hasn't been for me. No one's talking to me this afternoon. And he said, I'd like to hear from those people. And I can hear other people, oh, he's bursting the bubble. But no, he's making the reality. He's acknowledging the reality. And I just love that. I love that atmosphere. And it's hard to build, and there's nothing better for me.
Well, is you're
the
saying
diversity is
that,
important.
yeah, well, there's a conversation emerging in the chat room around diversity and cross-fertilization of ideas, and the welcoming of people who don't share the beliefs, if you like. So I wonder if there's some conversation. Is there anybody watching thinks, well, absolutely, why bother? I mean, what impact are almost like a couple of counsellors getting together in a group? I noticed there was a comment about maybe there's something about when we all come together, that we release something into the world. But so if anybody's sort of got some comments around that, well, should we really bother? And be great, in the spirit of what you're saying, that Carl Rogers was saying, Carol. Yeah. Kimar, did you have a thought there? Were you?
Well, I'm interested in the whitewashing of groups, because it's, even between the five of us, we have conflict and agreement and theoretical differences. Do you know what I mean? It's like we don't, the five of us don't represent a united representation of the person-centered approach. And of course, not everybody would see that from the outside, but it feels important to say that. It's like we're not a group of, we're not a team who are all going, oh yeah, we're all doing the same thing and we all agree with each other. We've worked through some stuff, and our commitment is to the working with it and through it. And
well, the challenge we've had to write a brochure together, the five of us.
Yeah.
Has been profound because different ideas.
Yeah.
Peggy, would
I'm really glad you said that, Kimar, because there are a couple of things going on for me. One is that the five of us have made a commitment, I think, to enter a group with the values of the person-centered approach held dear. But we do express them differently. That's one of the things I love about it. So part of what we have committed to is to be the culture in the yogurt. We will bring that kind of presence, and there will be other people there who will bring as much presence as we do. And then it ripples out, and then everybody starts to provide the climate. That's, if this group is a living system, part of its possibility for change and transformation is its adaptation and interaction with the climate. And I love what you said about the five of us. I would say personally, part of what we're working at is trying to become a cohesive group. I still don't feel that personally in this group. I'm still struggling, but it's what I'm looking at is me. Nobody can change this for me but me. But that's part of what I think this group will be able to do with the topic and with the kind of presence we manage to bring with each other. But yeah, we are not that's what I hate to hear, the word person-centered. Maybe that's why I said it. I feel like it can become, like Carol, you said, an ideology. But we are committed, I think, to try to provide those conditions so that people can feel safe in being open, in being, like what Colin said about claiming more of the parts of oneself. But I'm still trying to do that with the five of us. I do that every time I work with anybody. So, yeah, that's a really good point, I think, that you make, Kimar. So thank you for that.
And there's a kind of...
I'm thinking...
Oh, sorry, Colin, on you go.
Oh, sorry, John. I'm thinking, going back to the original question, of course, to some extent, who comes will also be dependent on who picks up the website or where the advertising gets sent to. I mean, I think we're also saying we would wish to embrace a much wider cross-section of participation. And the other thing I was wanting to say was something about, we have no specific outcome in mind. We're not meeting to discuss ecological recommendations or political change or financial change in the world markets. We have no specific outcome. Our concern is actually creating the space in which engagement occurs, critical thinking occurs, and people will come and they will go, and we hope in some way, nevertheless, they will have been transformed, influenced, changed, mobilized in whatever the way they wish. It's wanting to be respectful of what we're offering is the opportunity for that kind of engagement that might further people's own developments for interaction in whatever sphere of society they wish to or not. But it's something like that. Yeah.
And what what Peggy and Colin, you just said, and the question or the comment that came from the chat room early on, the once a year, here we go, for some people who have done person-centered groups for a while, this is like a recharging of the batteries, and that's essential. I need that myself. I need my batteries charged because it is a hard world. But the diversity, the openness to other cultures and other everything other than ourselves, each of ourselves, depends on more intentionality. All of us are white. This staff. It isn't that there aren't other people that are would be great teammates, but we know each other and we've had some connections, and then we do this. But if we're not super intentional, like if there are 70 people on the website, you know, people who have nothing to do with the person-centered approach, perhaps, but who actually are concerned with growth or there's the world, whatever. We know people who are outside the person-centered world. I would love to see 20 invitations going out to people who've never had anything to do with it, but who might be interested. You know, that's an intentionality to be diverse. It's not just the default, we know who we know, and oh, she's come before, he's come before, and let's replicate that. I think that's a really important feature of this, which is why I'm so glad that this chat room, that John and all the work you've been doing, I think is such an important egalitarian sort of openness. But it depends on us to make the connections and further the connections.
Yeah, thank you for that, Carol. I really appreciate that. This is an opportunity for us to kind of get the word out, and yeah, I want to catch some of the things that are going on in the chat room, and just to say, I mean, I almost never use the names in the chat room, so that in terms of the recording, so just to say to everybody who's online, I'm not using your name just so to hold your confidentiality as this recording sits in the library. And I think there's a noticing in the chat room, like there's so much going on in there. How can that come into our like verbal discussion? And to me, this is great. We're already in that question: can we all be heard? Can we all be seen? And like, and this is how we are as a species, isn't it? You know, like we've all got so much experiences and things to say. So I just know with only 20 minutes to go, we're not going to get to everything. But I do want to catch some of the things that are in the chat.
Possibly read out a number of different things?
Yeah. Okay. Let me do that, Carol. So something about the experience of being in the group, about feeling less alone, to be non-judgmentally humane, to be protected from powerfully psychopathic perpetrators of those who are vulnerable.
Wow.
That's a really
that's powerful
stuff, isn't it? More questions about how can we get a wider range of people participating. And Carol, I think you were saying something about that. Some comments about like a crack in the system that can allow some light in, perhaps. You know, that maybe it's not a change overnight, but just that crack can be something really powerful.
That's a line from a Leonard Cohen song.
Leonard Cohen.
Beautiful. Yes, well, thank you. Much appreciated.
And of course, someone said in the chat room, Leonard Cohen anthem. So that's what that was. Thank you, Colin. Thanks for noticing that. Yes. And some comments. I know this is a real thing for us as well as a team. What about all those of us who cannot afford to travel? You know, and it is a worry for us, isn't it? And it's a reality. You know, here we are, more than 70 people together around the world, and we're not all going to be able to get to Sedona next year. And I think it would be easy for us to leave the impression that, well, you know, we're going to get to Sedona, we're going to get to be in the group, and well, that's cool for us. And well, how do we make contact? Or, you know, yeah. Kimar, what are you thinking?
Can I just say?
Who's going?
Kimar, I think you're next.
Okay. I just noticing I'm having a reaction, so I want to speak to that. And it's something about, just because we have got together and we kind of, maybe we look like that we're a bit organized and that we've got a web page and we're going to do something, I'm interested in some of the questions. Like, somehow suddenly we then have to be responsible for equality and diversity and financial issues. Like, we then get treated like a government. Like, we've got to make it right for everybody. And it's like, that's not what I'm here for. So one response I have, to people who can't afford to come, is there's also people in America who couldn't afford to come when we did it in the UK last time. It's like, we're never going to get it right for everybody all of the time. And I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm doing my bit. And, other people can do a bit too. It's like, I don't want to be responsible for everybody's experience. So that's the response I'm having.
Thank you, Kumar. Yeah. Like this doesn't have to be the only group that happens. It's one group. It's a tiny contribution, I guess. Yeah.
Tiny contribution, and I want to honour that. It's a huge contribution in some ways, and it's also tiny in the global context. So I don't want to start feeling guilty because I haven't reached everybody on the globe. It's like, this is my bit, this is what I'm doing, this is what we're doing, and everybody's welcome. And there'll be people, if we do it in the UK, there'll be people in other countries who can't afford to come and who want to, and that's the pain of life.
Yeah. And possibly, Kimar, there might be some inspiration for other people in this group to do something in their own way. That's one of the things that often does happen, that they could pick up and say, gee, I think I'll have a weekly meeting in my community. Or, there are lots of ways that people can do what we're trying to do, can get people together to focus on something. So, yeah, and I feel terrible about the expense every time I do something, but it does cost something to do things. We can't change that.
Yeah, the why bother theme really comes in here for me. The why bother, there's nothing that seems big enough. And there's a Talmudic expression about I can't change the world, but I'm also not I'm not let off. They didn't say let off the hook, but so I get not let off the hook from trying. So the idea that you can go to your local meeting or your pub or your workout place or your wherever and say and find a person or two who is interested and cares about these things and make something happen yourself. But stay connected, because one of the things that certainly happens in the States that's very large geographically and very diverse in lots of ways is that maybe there's 30 different places that think they're the only ones doing this thing. And I'd love for us to be able to be that network. So maybe someone's doing something in Johannesburg, or something's doing something in Akko, Japan, or Toulouse, France, or who knows where. But we can be connected and sort of help support each other if we know what's happening. And I'd love to have that happen.
And so I want to give a shout out to some other groups and whose admins are in the chat room. So that would be great, because I can see Sarah and Bernard are here, and they run, that's probably not the right word, but they support the Pecan group here in the UK. So I will use these names because those names are really associated with these events. Kay Laurie's in the chat room and talking about the La Jolla program in the UK, which is in Devon, and I think Pecan is more central UK. And Magda, hi Magda, all the way from Hungary, is talking about the the week that will be in Hungary in July. So next year. So there are things happening. Of course, the Going Global group will be in November. If you can come to all those experiences, it would be incredible. Sandra's going to send out a resource guide after this event. Of course, there's going to be details of the Going Global group, but we'll also put those websites in too. So yeah, because I guess part of what we're doing is trying to keep the fire going. I guess it's not about the work that we're doing is the work. It's like we're trying to sustain that flame, I guess.
Thank you for mentioning those names of people that I recognize from our last trip to the UK. And I just wanted to say hello to them. I'm really glad they're there. You know who you are.
Yes, I wasn't sure we could start putting in personal messages, but I met Magda on my first Hungarian experience in the middle 80s. So hi Magda, and Bernard and Sarah, I've got one of your jackets which you left in France last week. So that's another. So please get in touch with me. Excuse me for personal bits, but the bit I was going to go on to say is some of us have a mutual French friend. Martine, and Martine's brother was a professor of geography at the University of Toulon quite a few years ago, and he used to run or co-run a group every 3 months in France with a Catholic priest under the theme to live in the same world. And they would take a theme every 3 months, and they very successfully engaged quite a range of people from quite different disciplines. Often they would invite key speakers, but after that, so it's a slightly different format to the large group. But again, it's also bearing in mind that there are other people conducting initiatives with similar motivation, I think. In a much broader motivation to stimulate kind of very critical thinking, about who we are and what's going on in the world. And it was. I just remember that as an example. It went on for quite a few years. Yeah.
And of course, Colin, you're just back from France with ACP, I guess, having just
with a large group.
Yeah, a large group. Yeah.
And they will be running it again next year, I think.
And I think we can get really caught up in, this is what we do in the person-centered world. There are other organisations in other worlds, if we like, who are attempting these kinds of things. And it's like, well, how can we sustain our contribution, but also link up to other disciplines, other people? Like that is part of the transformation that we're hoping for as a species, I guess. Not just all of us who are really excited about perhaps what Carl Rogers wrote or other people in this field. And here we are with 9 minutes to go, and so much to think about in the chat room and for us, and I'm not sure what do we do with our last 9 minutes. Yeah.
Can we have any more comments or questions from the chat room?
Thank you, Kima. Well, yeah, let's. I'll see because Sandra's caught some, and an invitation. If you're in the chat room, what would you like to say to all of us as a group? I guess as we kind of come to the end of this experience. Well, comment. This has gone so fast. Yes. It's often why we'll take 5 days for the group in Going Global, a week in Hungary. There was some comments earlier about how scary the large group can be. Like the frightening to be vulnerable and open and with so many people. Yeah.
There's a flip side of that. I'm always remembering that this.
You go first, Carol. Go on.
Well, let me just catch
Okay.
some more of
So
the chat room if that's
that
okay
this
with you,
person,
Carol. Yeah,
sure.
like wondering what Carl would have thought of this experience today, I guess, as we all connect like this. And he would have liked to have invited much more challenge and diversity. So something about an energy for not just, oh, isn't this great and shouldn't we all do this? But like, what else is out there? Yeah. A call for a little bit more talk about the conflict between us. I mean, I'm not sure whether we go there in the last 5 minutes or, but I mean, we could say more of that. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to speak to that because I'm not going to speak about conflict between us because I don't think there's any major conflict, but we will be a mirror for this group. And I take incredibly seriously the possibility and the opportunity for genuine connection with the staff because because you've read probably some of the reports that often what's going on in the staff is mirrored in the group. And so the first thing I said I think was that that's okay with me that there's, I mean, even Scott Peck, whose work I don't love and I've never been to it, but even he said a static group is a dead group. And if 5 of us are together, there's no way in hell that I would ever believe that we all agree on everything. And I think that part of what we need to honor and work hard at is to allow whatever discord exists between us and to stick with it and to care about each other and to hear each other. And when you talked about Carol saying, I mean, my favorite group, Carol, that I ever did was in Long Island, and the end of it was there were 100 and some people, and they were shouting at each other across the room. God damn it! What? It was unbelievable, and I said, "Oh my God!" And Carl said the same thing I said. He said, "This is really exciting because things have been uncovered and they're being stuck with," and so I just want to say that's the other charge that I think we have. One charge is to try to bring forward the conditions and the belief that this group doesn't need to have us direct it. This group is a living system that has an organismic wisdom, and it will function the way it will function. And Colin said, we don't have an agenda. That's like so important. And then the other charge, I think, is for us to really, and I've kind of lost my voice a little bit. You're all saying, "Oh my God, she lost her voice." I noticed, but I have. I can silence myself still. I look how old I am and how many of these things I've done, and I can get really scared that, well, if I say this, people will gang up on me or not love me. But that's part of our task, I think. And if we can do that, then we can embrace it in the. So I'm sorry to go. That's not even a mini sermon. That's a shouting, impassioned plea. But yeah, I think that is a very important thing. What goes on between us, and there isn't any major thing. But I'm looking at myself, and I've seen a couple places where I have silenced myself. And if I can't be present with all of my pain and joy and fury, then I'm not present. And so I will be. That's a promise. I probably scared the person to death.
Well, Peggy, people are saying they agree. Someone shouted hallelujah back at you. So fantastic. And that has provoked a discussion about that really needing to have a space where we can be in that conflict together and experience it and not shy away from it. Yeah. can we do it again, please? Wow. Okay. So maybe we might come back as a team. We do. Yeah. Okay.
When they say do it again, do they mean the online event?
Good question, Kimar. I was making that assumption. So, yeah, let's get some more feedback about that. It'd be great. Carol, I talked over you a few minutes ago, and I'm just noticing. I wonder, is that still bubbling away for you? Kind of that comment?
It's about this frightening, that the large group is frightening. And I remember someone saying that in this very large group, I've not said these things to my husband in bed. How am I saying it to 100+ people? Because this is insane, and I'm a grandmother. I'm not a professional in any way. But she said, I'll never be afraid like that again. So there's this chance for experimenting, the laboratory, like Colin said and Peggy said. And, yeah, there's chances. If we're here together, there's hope.
There's hope. Yeah.
There is hope. There's a lot of hope. We just haven't figured out how it's going to appear. But I feel a lot of hope, and it's a sort of a scary time, but it's very exciting. All the energy that's being exchanged, and it's something's going to happen. Well, things are happening, but it's going to be positive at the outcome. I really believe that. And I see other people, by the way, 4 organizational development people, very well known in the U.S., who wrote a book called Presence, Human Purpose and the Field of Possibility or something. They wanted to learn more about the process of learning, and they started to meet together, 4 of them, just the way we meet, in somebody's living room every 6 weeks with no agenda. And they would just sit with the question, like our question is, why bother? Their question was, how do we learn really? And one of them said, if you're there and you observe and you observe and you observe and allow the meaning to unfold from the process of being together. So I'm excited that other people are working in this way as well. And part of that is to get out of the total left brain intellectual stuff and start learning with the heart. You have to learn both ways.
Yeah. That's definitely a book to check out. It really is.
Oh, it's a great book.
Yeah, really fantastic. Yeah, I'm just noticing someone's just come in from Turkey. I'm sorry you've got there's been a mix-up with the time zones for you, and you're saying you're the one and only person-centered therapist in Turkey. Well, our discussion will be...
Welcome.
Yeah.
And
what a shame about the time.
It is, Colin, isn't it? Our discussion will be in the library tomorrow, and we're going to be putting up clips on YouTube, so watch out for those recordings. And I think what feels like it's emerged for us, I mean, we wanted to kind of have a discussion with everyone and also draw attention to the going global experience that we're putting on, because we have to find a way to telling people about that. But it also feels like we're, in some ways, our energy is hopefully touching everyone in the group in a way that's like, well, what could I do? Could we do a group where I am, or is there some people close to me? So I hope that's the impact that is going on in all of us as a group as we're online here together, all 70 of us. So, yeah.
I'm for a group in Turkey myself.
Sorry, Peggy?
I said I'm for a group in Turkey myself.
We're all coming straight to Turkey without delay. Kimar and Colin, I wonder if, we haven't heard from you both for just a little bit. Have you got some thoughts as we finish, or am I putting you on this spot, or yeah?
I've got one thought.
Okay, Colin.
I was really resonating with the person who said that groups and large groups can be scary places. And I really deeply and personally recognize that. Um, and I think sometimes the only escape is to get out, because if you're there, even if you're silent, everything will be going on. And often what is going on it's not linear, it is unpredictable. We get evoked by things we hadn't even anticipated would evoke us, either people or the way they are or what is being discussed. Um, and so it is at that level there's no control. It's at that level that things can get raised which are scary. And on my first large group, I didn't dare speak. And it was in the last 2 minutes of the seventh day when Chuck Devonshire was winding up and saying what a beautiful week we've had and thank you for coming and all that graceful stuff of, head of team or whatever. And I just stood up and said something because I thought, I've got to say something because if I don't say something, I've not been here. No, that's a bit bizarre because manifestly I had been. And it would have made no sense to anybody else. I was acutely embarrassed. It was not coherent. But there was something about my fear at that time was daring even to have a voice in such an assembly. And so there was something of that for me, which I'm both in touch with the terror and fear, whatever that might be. And part of that is the daring to risk. And I guess we hope the climate is such that we facilitate the capacity to risk. So that's a long way round, but I'm because I love large groups. I'm not innocent or naive about the fact they can be terribly scary, and people can go away in great distress and pain from them. And I think that's a reality too, and it's a sadness. But yeah, that's enough probably.
Thank you, though, Colin,
Thank you,
for
John.
bringing your own experience and just holding that in the perspective of how much we want people to come, how much we're all passionate about it. And thank you. And a comment in the chat room just really appreciating that. Participants saying, well, I wait to the last minute too. So, yeah, feeling really heard in that. Kimar, I did ask you if you had a comment, so I don't want to kind of rush past that. And, how are you doing?
I'm good. I don't have a comment. I've spoken when I needed to. I'm delighted there's been that many people online with us, and I'm sorry we weren't. That I couldn't see the chat room too, but yeah, it's been good.
Thank you. Yeah, and in response to your question, does the group want another online event? Lots of people said yes. So there's been lots of interest or excitement about that, and maybe there is something about our energy kind of hopefully touching other people's energy, and in a way that just isn't about come to the group that we're convening, but
well, no doubt you'll be pinning us down with another date then, John.
well, as you know, Kimar, I already have. So we've got something in February, haven't we? So you know what I'm like, Kimar. So I can feel.
So, as a participant in the team, John, is there anything you want to say at the as we close out here, getting close?
Oh, good question.
How's it been for you?
Well, I feel really moved by the energy in the chat room, and I just want to say thanks to everyone who has come and joined in the conversation with us, or allowed us to join in your conversation. So I just feel really moved by that, and that like together we're not nothing. Like 70 people on a Sunday in December, touching that energy and consciousness that we're all all the billions of us are part of, it feels really special to me. And so, yeah, that's where I am. Yeah. So thank you, everyone who's joined us live. It's been great to have the comments and the questions in the chat room. And I know not everybody's been in the chat room, so I also want to say thank you for your presence. If you've been listening and watching, and it really makes a difference, all the attention that's paid to this experience. So thank you. Thank you, Sandra, for holding us in this experience. Really appreciate it. And to my colleagues and friends on the Going Global facilitation team, I know I've kind of half dragged you here, and we've been willing to do it too. And there's something about us putting ourselves out there, being vulnerable about our passions and what we're up to. So a heartfelt thank you too. Really appreciate that. Till the next time, I guess. Bye for now.
Until the next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.